Hey, coming up next is Richie Norton. Who is he? He's an award-winning author, serial entrepreneur. He has created several different companies, and what he found was that time management was really important to him, and he found out in the worst way possible, which I'm definitely going to ask him about. Today, Richie and I can help you use his experience so that you don't get the wake-up call in just the worst way. Richie Norton joins me. How are you, man?
I'm so good. This is going to be so much fun.
It is going to be fun. The second that you said you could do this, I was like, oh, we're going to have a blast. I told our showrunner, Brooke, I'm like, this is going to be great.
That's so nice of you.
Well, I'm all about reclaiming my time. And I think this idea of trading, hours for time is kind of outdated. But for you, I got to think anybody that's working on a project like this, Richie, this isn't like, hey, let's do a book about anti-time management. Like there's got to be a reason. I'm thinking that you must have tried it some of the traditional ways and it just didn't work.
Well, that's for sure. I'll tell you, I'll take you way back when I was 16 years old. I told my dad that I wanted a job in the summer. And my dad, he's an entrepreneur. He's like, you don't want a job. I'm like, what? Like, worst dad ever. Why would you? What dad tells their kid not to get a job? I was like, it's like not
Be
what
lazier.
you. Yeah,
Be lazier.
Not what you do. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to make money. I want to spend my own money. I want to do my own thing. And he says, fine. I'm from San Diego. He says, go to El Centro. And this is literally what he said. I don't know how he pulled this out, but he said, go to El Centro and ask the watermelon farmers if you can buy their irregular size watermelons from them at a discount, because he knew somehow they can't sell them to the grocery stores, and so they just have them. And so I'm like, okay. So me and my brother, who was 14, we got in like the family van, took out the car seats, found a farm, asked if we could buy them. My dad gave us some seed money, and we filled up the van with these watermelons. We sold them on the 4th of July. Set up a little table at the park. Basically, just called all of our friends' parents and said, will you buy these watermelons? They look weird, but they're really big and they're delicious. Anyways, I made more money in one day than I would have made the entire summer working minimum wage.
Wow.
And it changed the way I thought. He didn't have to teach me anything. He has told me this is a way. It was a way I didn't know existed. So it changed the way of everything. And, over time, I don't know, I'm not always thinking about this watermelon story, but like, I'm like looking back, like, where did I get these ideas? But, when I first got married, I'm like looking around at successful people and I'm asking them about how do you balance your time? And at the end of the day, they were saying you don't. Even very wealthy people, millionaires, some billionaires I happen to meet, you can't. And I realized that they would sacrifice their family while telling themselves they were doing it for their family. I was like, I'm not going to do that. That sounds like a road to tragedy. And over my short, time, just trying to put some ideas into place, my brother-in-law passed away at the age of 21 in his sleep. It shook us, and I was like, oh my gosh! Like in addition to all the sadness, I was like, you know what? You don't necessarily live till you're 65. And you don't necessarily get to spend all your time working to one day live that dream. A few years later, my son passed away. He caught pertussis, my 4th son. And when he passed, my wife and I are just like, this is too much. Her brother passes away. My son passes away. I was like, what are we working for anyways? And then some other things happened. We had some foster kids come into our lives. We were going to adopt them. We had them for 2 years. They went back to bio-mom, which is wonderful for her, but also there was a reason, so it was a very scary situation. And the pain of losing those children was so much. In fact, at one point, we don't know if this is directly related, but my wife had a stroke and she lost her memory. And fortunately, it came back. But now I'm like, people I love are dying. People I love are leaving. My wife's losing her memory, and later my son gets hit by a car one of my other sons crossing the street. And I was like, he's okay. But when all this stuff happens, anyone who's experienced any kind of tragedy, no matter how small the pain, they realize real quick, I'm not working for the sake of working. I'm working for something else. So to kind of sum it up, I wrote this other book called The Power of Starting Something Stupid. And it was about embracing these ideas and letting them do their thing. And what I realized is people would start these stupid ideas and they'd be successful only to realize it wasn't what they actually wanted. They wanted what they thought would come from the success of doing that thing. So anti-time management, to answer your question, addresses that issue. How do you bake in freedom from the start? If you bake a cake without sugar, it's not going to suddenly be sweet. You have to do the work with the values from the start.
It's funny. It reminds me of, your whole book reminds me, by the way, Richie, of Stephen Covey and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And, begin with the end in mind, right? I mean, we build these traps for ourselves. You talk a little bit about, you got this little section in the book about these, billionaires that have, that are just trapped. They have no time, no energy, because they're constantly feeding the beast that they built for themselves, this trap they built.
It's true. And Stephen Covey is a mentor of mine, by the way, before he passed. And Stephen M.R. Covey, his son, endorsed this book.
He's so great. Yeah.
You know these guys too. Okay, very good.
Sure.
They're amazing. But there's one thing that people don't talk about. When he says begin with the end in mind, he did not say begin with means in mind. And if you look at anyone setting goals, focusing on their strengths, and even, heaven forbid, blasphemy, focusing on their habits, you'll realize that these are means, not ends. They made them ends unto themselves. I'm saying look beyond goals. Look beyond habits. Look beyond strengths, because those are tools that can be interchanged. Go to where you really want to be and start from there. Literally start there from the start, and then you'll know what tools, what habits, what means to use. This is an important distinction.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I feel like you nail your thesis with the quotes throughout the book that begin each chapter. But the quote that begins the entire book, I want to read this for everybody. And I'd like you to expand it for me. This is, I believe it's E. Cummings. I rise in the morning torn between a desire to improve or save the world and a desire to enjoy or savor the world. This makes it hard to plan the day. I'm like, yes, I want to have fun and I want to get ahead. And how the hell do I make those two things meet?
I mean, even today, I live in Hawaii, so I literally can walk outside and walk on the beach and go surfing and walk my dog and do all these things.
Now you're just rubbing it in.
I'm literally just rubbing it in. But then at the same time, it's like, but then I have to do all these other things, and how should I spend my time? And and it's not just like I don't want to do it if it's not fun, right? So there's a way to figure this out. But even if you're just like putting the time and doing the work, I just found in hundreds of interviews that people will say they need more time, more education, more experience, and more money, only to find out that when they finally get there, years later, they still need more time, more education, more experience, and more money. And this is just too real. So the answer in anti-time management is to begin with not just the end in mind, but beyond what you think the end is. In other words, Aristotle called it final cause. The idea of final cause is that there's 4 causes. You need this material, you need this design, you need this person or this agent to make it happen, and you eventually have the thing. Academics will use the example of a table. So they'll say, to make a table, you need wood, you need design, you need a person to make it, then you have a table. But if you were to ask yourself what the purpose of the table is, you might realize you don't need the table at all, and that you spent all your time building a table, all your money building a table, when you could have done Uber Eats. When you could have gotten Thai food from the food truck across the street. Like, you start realizing that your whole life, this is a metaphor, you start realizing that your whole life you spent your time doing things you thought you needed to do, but you never did. This is what we're talking about.
It's so powerful. And to show just how powerful it is, you have one more story to begin the book, which is this woman, Sarah, S-I-R-A-H. Can you tell us about her?
Yeah, so Sarah is amazing. Her rapper name is Syra, and I met her when I was giving a TEDx talk in Moldova. I was also there with USAID speaking to entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs, and she shows up to speak at TEDx, and I'm just like, "What's your story?" And she's a Grammy Award-winning rapper, and I'm like, "How'd you do this?" And she explains that growing up, just real quick, like she it's hard. I'm not going to give it justice, but because it's so impactful. But she had a rough childhood. Her dad was constantly on drugs. She was selling her toys to get money so that her dad could buy more drugs. Her dad passes away of what I believe is an overdose. She ends up homeless at some point. She's has these horrible experiences, raped. Just all the things you would never want to have happen. Then she has this voice in her head that tells her she needs to go become a rapper. And she goes to one of those places where you stand on stage and you rap, and if you're good, I guess they go, yeah, and if you're not, they boo you off the stage. She got booed off the stage. I think she did every Thursday. She got booed. Finally.
And for most of us, by the way, not to cut you off, Richie, right there, but I just want people, as they're hearing this, to hear kind of what I was thinking. This is where most of us quit, right? This is where most of us go, yeah, I'm done. I'm out.
I'm out. And also what's really interesting is where most of us go to is, okay, let's just think of someone listening to this. We're all in different situations, but for many people, the path to become an artist or to become a professional is to go to school. I'm not saying school is not good. I'm saying she didn't have the opportunity to go do these recitals, to have a chart that said you're going to do this and then that and then this, and then you're going to get a gold star. She had to become it before she became it.
She made those Thursdays her school, really.
There you go. And people started coming out of the woodwork to help her. So someone said, hey, what are you doing? This is like silly. and she's like, well, what do you mean? And we'll teach you how to rap. And they taught her. Over time, she eventually figured it out. She started meeting people, started getting on different stages, started doing different gigs, and she eventually won a Grammy Award. So the idea was, it's not I will, it's I am. And that's a real thing. Because what I sometimes do is I think of the juxtaposition of a boss in a corner office with the room dark, with dark glasses on, playing solitaire every day for 20 years, waiting to be promoted, because that is the other option.
Oh, yeah. Sitting in my office waiting for a 3% cost of living raise.
3% cost of living raise. When if you quit your job today, you'd probably get $10,000 or $20,000 more instantly at a new job, or even more possibly if you start your own thing. So yes, that is time tipping. She'd either be dead on the street, sadly, or she would have remained homeless for who knows how long, or she could have stepped up. And some of these examples, mine, hers, others, they could be considered extreme. But grief is grief. It's a tunnel, not a cave. And it's not about just like moving on and forgetting it. It's about moving forward, deciding who you want to be in the future and acting from that future, not endlessly toward it. Goals from the past, to me, goals that you've already done. Goals from experience are tasks. Goals that are outside experience are growth. And that's where people are scared to play. But that's where you need to play if you want to tip time.
Where do we begin, though? Somebody sitting here listening to you and I right now, job one for them right now would be to do what?
I'll be super real. If you need money, focus on obviously making money. But this will become something that never ends. Even millionaires who could have all the time in the world have decidedly made themselves strapped to a swivel chair forever.
Treadmill.
Or a treadmill, So you got to prioritize based on your needs. If you are in a situation, and everyone is, it's a choice. It's something you can think of. It's something you can think beyond. You can figure out how to get stuff done and have a dream. This is all real stuff. Ask yourself who you want to be in 2 years. Once you decide who you want to be, you'll know what to do. Because when you decide who you want to be in 2 years, you can actually find ways to become that person in 6 months and right now. The reason I say 2 years is because if you say 10 years, it's a really far distance. It's possible, but you're more likely to get that 10-year dream in 2 years or get that dream in 10 years by focusing on it in 2 years, 1 year, 6 months. The reason is because of this. Think about who you were 10 years ago. We're recording this in 2022. In 2012, if you're listening to this, who were you? You were a different person in a different place, different money situation, different work. Everything was different. You don't even want your 2012 goals anymore. That is what we're talking about. So to start, you'd say, who do I want to be? And you break down to four parts. Personally, professionally, because money and meaning can go together. They don't have to be separate. People in my life, play, things that are exciting. And when you come up with your top 4 things, you create kind of a North Star effect. You can make all your decisions from these things. Will it lead me closer to them? Does it make them happen? Or lead me further away? You need to create projects around them. I'm going to do a project for money, a project for fun, a project with my family, a project for my personal stuff. And they stack. So one decision can impact them all at the same time. This isn't just philosophical, even though it sounds philosophical when I'm saying it. This is something you can actually do right now.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, Richie. I'm thinking this is very tactical because as you're talking, I'm trying to put this into process. And this is not about a better calendar. This is about blowing up your calendar and starting with those values and working backward.
Yeah. There's a couple ways you can think about that. So I like to say sometimes a full calendar is an empty life. And people go, what? Well, because if you have an empty calendar, it means that everything's been handled. There's no one is more productive than a procrastinator with an impending deadline.
I feel like you're looking at me. Are you looking at me?
Yeah, I am. So you're right to your point. If you're going to fill your calendar up, you might as well fill it up with the stuff you like and want to do, not the stuff you feel like you have to do and don't like it, because you can delegate, outsource that stuff. And you're like, I really have to do it. Fine, do that. But everything that you put in that is your actual priority, because since we were kindergartners, we were taught that priorities last on a timeline, even though priority means prior, to proceed, to proceed. It's weird. It's just weird. So you do this calendar and you fill it up with all the stuff you necessarily think you don't necessarily have to do, but you think you do. And you leave your actual values on the fringe. You can switch that, reverse it. You go, well, I don't have enough time for that. You know what? That's the point. You will start crowding out distractions for the crap you don't have to do anymore. And do the things that actually matter, because as a responsible person, you're going to get it done either way.
This sounds like a big transition for some people. You know, people are naturally afraid. We're all afraid of change, which is funny because this has been a constant my entire life, Richie, that I've had to lead teams and everybody's afraid of the one constant we know is coming, which is change. Right? Change is going to happen. So true. But what do you say? What do you say to these people that either say they're not ready or they're afraid to move?
I understand it. I'm scared every day. You know, I think we're all scared, and it's not fun to be scared. But if you don't feel that little ting of scared, I mean, are you doing what you really want to do anyways, or are you just going through the motions? You know, and when you're prioritizing your family, your personal values, and these things first, the pain of it goes away. A mama bear will sacrifice her life for her cubs. If your dream is big enough, all the other stuff that you're scared of goes away. It doesn't go away, but you're able to handle it because you're bigger than it. Your reason is bigger. But let me say it this way. People will constantly turn to time management to fix things. And it's weird because time management, if you go into history, it's a design. It's a tool. It was never designed to give people freedom. It was designed specifically to measure every drop, blood, and sweat and tears of workers. Management, by definition, means control. Manual, mono, to control by hand. It was actually a word to describe how to control horses. A manger, where you go to feed the cattle. A manager is one letter away. This is work through management. So you go like, I'm not saying, like you go, what, my company, corporations are going to do what they're going to do. They've been doing it for 200 years, my friend. Oh, they want me to come back to the office. Of course they do. Why wouldn't they? Like, don't be an idiot. Like, of course they do. Well, what are we going to do? So you get to decide what you want to do. That's the blessing. That's the blessing, because there are other jobs that don't require you to go in. You get to choose.
Well, what's very powerful about that is then it becomes, the fear melts away, because you're more fearful of standing in place. Like all these things you're talking about your brother-in-law and your son and all of these things that have happened. Like if I don't design that life today, I should be more afraid of that than, you know what I mean, about staying where I am and not taking advantage of that time. Totally. I want to ask you one more question here, which is, I have a set of things that are my big four. My spouse Cheryl might have four others.
Yes.
People I'm around might have their own. What if my outcomes don't jive with the people around me?
Oh, I love. No one's asked me that question before. I love that question. And let's do it specifically. You can do it with a business partner or a significant other, but let's just say your spouse. A lot of people think, well, first of all, they think, oh, we have to be the exact same person. No, you're different people. But like my wife loves Pilates. I want nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? I want nothing to do with that. Right? But if she understands my goals 100%, and I understand her goals 100%, even if they're different, in that way, we are on the same page. And there will be some crossover, of course. But in that way, we are on the same page. I mean, imagine if you had someone in your life supporting you 100%, and you also supported them 100%, and you weren't talking about compromise. You're talking about thinking differently. How can we do it all? You can't do it all. Well, what if we did X, Y, Z to make this bad thing not happen by next Tuesday? Well, let's start there. Like, it's a different level of thinking, and it requires that to do something different.
And how fun is it to help her get hers while she's helping you get yours? Like
Absolutely.
To be, people with different dreams. But that gives you a whole nother meta level of help. I want to end with this image, which is one that begins the third chapter of the book. And from here, by the way, guys, this is where Richie really starts to build the machine and shows you the tactics of working through how to do this reorganization that we're talking about. But you say, build the castle, then the moat. And I love this imagery, but can you explain to everybody what the hell that means?
Yeah. Yes, I can. If you've ever seen a castle on TV or in person, many of them have this moat around it. So I'm using the castle and the moat, the castle representing the dream, the lifestyle you want, the moat representing strategic and economic ways to support the castle or the dream. So what most people do, and most is with emphasis, they start with the moat, the work, dreaming of the castle, and they never get there. And by the way, that was by design of corporations. This is by design. This is on purpose. Now, I know it's a different world in the 21st century, but we're still thinking with these 20th century management, philosophies. So the idea is, if you start with the castle and you build the dream and work from the dream, not toward it, from it, you can create strategic and economic moats around it to support it, so that your professional priorities support your personal ones, which is a way better way than the way you're currently likely doing it, sacrificing your personal priorities for your professional ones. That's weird. Life's short.
Well, yeah. And I think about some of the, when you track public companies and you track their stocks, what do you track? I mean, some of the big things are worker output, right? Output per worker, like how efficient workers are. Like, you're right. Corporations want you to stay on the treadmill. I mean, that's what we measure. We measure the treadmill, and you're talking about getting off it, which I enjoy so much because, I don't know, we're big fans of Vicki Robin here. I don't know if you're familiar with Vicki Robin, but this idea of trading time for money is a trap, and it's very synergistic with, I think, Richie, what you're talking about. The book is Anti-Time Management: Reclaim Your Time and Revolutionize Your Results with the Power of Time Tipping. And I'm assuming it's available everywhere.
It's available everywhere. Grab it right now. It would mean the world to me. And honestly, this is a great interview. You made this so fun. Thank you, man. This is really good. I really appreciate it.
How can I not have fun hanging out with Richie Norton? I mean, that's my question, right? Thanks a lot, man.
No, so good. Thank you.